Have you ever had an embarrassing moment with IBD? Because I have, and so have many others. This is why we've put this video together to share some of our favourite, most embarrassing moments. This is for those of you who are embarrassed or feel a little bit ashamed and you feel lonely, like you have nobody to relate to. This is for you. Remember, it takes guts to share our most embarrassing moments.
13 years old, having a singing lesson, Crohn's disease, no control, massive fart, mortified. Could have been a pop star.
Probably the most embarrassing moment for me was when my stoma Sally decided to make the loudest of fart noises in the busiest, quietest and smallest of lifts. Try explaining that one.
My funny IBD story is when I went to my friend's house and it's about 10 of us and I farted and it smelled so bad we had to leave the house. We had to be in the garden. We still use this story to this day.
First time I was asked to hand in a stool sample, the doctors didn't give me much information and I was so embarrassed I didn't ask. So I pooed into a Tupperware from my house and I handed that in at the hospital, and I was mortified when the receptionist said, "We can't accept this, go to the doctors and get a clinical pot and poo in it again and come back."
I was in the library, just had a stoma reversal, really needed a poo. I was on the 3rd floor, the toilet was on the bottom floor. I didn't make it, got to the 2nd floor, had to stand in the middle of the aisle in front of people around me whilst it was coming out, trying to squeeze it in. Yeah.
One of the most embarrassing times on my Crohn's journey so far was actually during a colonoscopy. I had a team of all male doctors and nurses, and the camera got stuck halfway through, so they had to flip me over. But they didn't tell me they were going to flip me over, and when they did, my legs went spread everywhere and everything was on show for everyone. And it was so traumatising and so embarrassing, but you've got to laugh about it.
Embarrassing IBD stories. There's too many, but one that sticks in the mind is having my temporary stoma several years ago and sitting in a public library and farting from my front. Yeah, that was embarrassing.
I would say mine is I was having a really bad flare, and so I was in public and really needed to go to the toilet. So I found a table toilet, ran in there really quickly. I was doing a poo, and then all of a sudden some guy walked in. I was mortified. I really thought I locked the door, but obviously because I was so panicked, I didn't think about it, and I just went really quickly.
As a singer with ulcerative colitis, it can be quite embarrassing. I recently went on my dream trip to Los Angeles to work with some amazing musicians. Yeah, I was having a flare, so I had to keep having the awkward conversation and explain why I kept needing to go for a poo.
My most embarrassing moment since being diagnosed with Crohn's disease is definitely coming home after surgery, trying to change my stoma bag for the first time with my partner's help, bless him, only for it to literally explode all over him.
My most embarrassing moment was when I took my little boy to the toilet at a family party. Thought while I was there I'll empty my bag. As I've done it, it's gone all over the floor. I've quickly cleaned it up before anyone saw, but Jack shouted really loud, "Mummy, there's poo-poo everywhere."
I was in the car on the motorway and I really needed the toilet, so we had to stop off on the hard shoulder, and my mum shielded me so the cars didn't see what I was doing, and I pooed on the hard shoulder on the motorway.
So I work as a nurse, and one day mid-shift I felt this warm sensation on my leg, so I looked down and it looks like I've dropped brown paint on me, but it's not paint. It was so embarrassing.
My worst moment with Crohn's disease was when I had an accident while cooking dinner. It came down my legs and went everywhere. But then I realized it's Crohn's disease. Stuff like that happens. Gotta stay positive.
So my most embarrassing moment was when I first got diagnosed. I was on the way to work and I picked up a cup of coffee thinking everything would be fine, and by the time I got to work my stomach had bloated out that much from the milk in the coffee, this was before the coconut milk days, that my trousers literally wouldn't fit me anymore, and my boss had to send me home from work, and I literally was distraught.
On the motorway, nowhere, and I moved nowhere to empty my bag, but I had an empty Burger King cup.
Stomas have no concept of volume at all. I learnt this in a client meeting when mine decided it was going to be loud. This is meant to be professional.
I was at my local cinema and found myself running to the disabled toilet.
Somebody there was questioning why I needed to use it, and I flashed my can't wait cards and they were way more embarrassed than I was.
There was a time I was doing my weekly shopping and I thought I had passed wind on the sly, when in reality blood had followed through. So I ran straight to the disabled toilet and tried to salvage the situation.
An embarrassing moment always is when you're in a quiet room or situation and your tummy just decides to make this crazy noise and people look at you like you're the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. And I'm just not a big fan of those situations when I'm centre of attention, especially when it's something out of your control.